Of course Alexis is a narc defender. Piece of shit. Oh, is he supposed to be hot? Okay. She probably could have said she can't read. I think I'd have believed her. There is an element of weird little girl to this story that I don't think I could access now. Hey, it's Hannah. Welcome back to another installment of me reading my tweenage NaNoWriMo novel. If you missed the previous videos, there's just absolutely no way I could catch you up, but I do have a playlist. Okay, well, my computer needs to restart, so I guess I can update you a little bit. 3 teenage friends, they're off on a treasure hunting adventure. There was a haunted mansion. There was a mysterious figure that we have not mentioned in several chapters. I wonder if it'll come up again. One of them is the delinquent. He got sent to boarding school in Ireland. Don't ask me why. It probably just sounded exciting. So they've just arrived in Ireland, and in the previous chapters, one of them, Saya, gets beamed in the head with a cricket ball. So I assume we're gonna see her waking up or being dead in this chapter, question mark. If you like this story, I'm a better writer now, and my books are linked in the description. Saya groaned and held her throbbing head. Rip Saya. Finn had helped Nick carry her back to her room, then ran to find a nurse. Alexis was out looking for an ice pack. Wouldn't the nurse have one of those? You okay? Nick asked. Saya groaned again in response. Nick brushed the hair out of her face and examined her forehead. It's not so bad. You'll be fine. I probably have a concussion. Oh, what, sweetheart? She whined. I bet she permanently damaged something. I'll never be able to read again. I'll have to have someone tie my shoes for me because I won't remember how. Nick smiled. My dad will have to hire a nurse to take care of me for the rest of my life. I'll have to wear diapers and be fed with a plastic spoon. Gonna be honest, I'm getting some ableist vibes. Alexis opened yet another door and peered in. Oops, sorry. She hurriedly closed it. Bathroom, she accounted. There has to be a kitchen in here somewhere. She opened the next door. Another game room? What are you looking for? A voice asked behind her. She yelped and spun around. A boy stood with an armload of books. Black hair hung low on his face, almost hiding his eyes. She looked closer. Green eyes. Does she just green? Alexis is so creepy. Your eyes are the same color as my socks. She pulled up her jeans leg to prove her statement. Alexis, please. He laughed and managed to stick his hand out without dropping any books. I'm Ian. Alexis has 3 love interests now. Alexis shook his hand. I thought it was against policy to shake hands with girls. Ian grunted. I'm new. You could have reminded me before making me break a rule. Sorry, bro. Bro. She shrugged. He shifted the stack of books. Oh, she said. Here, let me help you. She grabbed half the pile before he could protest. You don't have to. He tried to take them back. It's fine. She dodged his arm and kept hold of the books. Where are you headed with them? Just in here. He nodded 2 doors down. Library. She twisted the doorknob with her foot and shoved it open. That wasn't an impressive feat, he said, or impressive feat. Punny! Alexis walked into the library and put the books on a table. Ian dropped his pile next to hers and started stacking books on the shelf. So are you visiting someone? Ian asked. Then he rolled his eyes at himself. Of course you are. Why else would you be here? I came with my friend and his family, she added. He's new here too. Another American? He asked. Sweet. Maybe I won't get so many weird looks now. Our friend Saya is with us too. Oops. Did you just forget about her? You give your friend a concussion and then talk up a boy in the library? Alexis ran into Saya's room 10 minutes later with a bag of ice. What took you so long? Saya asked. Ian walked in behind Alexis. Saya looked at him. Oh. Alexis dropped the bag on Saya's head. Ouch, Saya enunciated. You're kind of a brat when you're hurt, Nick said. I think I'm entitled. Saya sniffed and adjusted her ice bag. Finn was sitting on the bed opposite Saya. Alexis sat next to him. Nick, this is Ian, she said. Ian, this is Nick. Nice to meet you, Ian said. Nick nodded. Same. There's such a weird tension between Nick and every boy. Wonder why. What did the nurse say? Alexis asked. She's fine, Nick said. She's just milking it. I could have died, Saya muttered. Alexis threw herself on the bed next to Saya and fake sobbed. Oh, Saya, we almost lost you. She stroked her head. Okay, fine, stop. Saya sat up. She was so busy being fatally injured that she didn't really look around when they had carried her in. There were just 2 beds, a desk, a small refrigerator, and a door that she assumed led to the bathroom. This is one of the student rooms, Finn said. We don't really have many guests. Yeah, Ian nodded. This is the first time family has ever stayed for more than a couple of hours. Really? Saya asked. Why? In a hurry to get rid of them, I suppose, Ian said. Jesus. You make it sound so horrible, Finn said. He turned to Saya. They come beforehand to look around, too. You seem pretty put together, Alexis said. Why are you here? My parents don't think I'm quite ready to come home yet. Finn offered a forced smile. Finn's been here for 3 years, Ian said. That's the longest anyone has ever attended. No one has stayed through the entire, high school curriculum, question mark. I always really confidently want to talk about school things, and then it's like, oh, you were homeschooled, weren't you? What's wrong with staying longer? Alexis asked. It seems like a nice school. Oh, it is a nice school, Ian said. It also costs an arm, a leg, and the soul of your firstborn child to attend. That sounds like Alexis dialogue. Nick's parents walked in. Sire, are you okay? Mr. Elton gushed. They told me one of the boys hit you with a cricket ball. Alexis quickly nodded. Nick tried not to laugh. I'm fine, Mrs. Elton. Saya stood up to prove it. See, it's just a bruise. The nurse agrees, Finn assured her. Mrs. Elton seemed to have just noticed Finn and Ian. Oh, I see you made friends already. Do either of you know when we eat dinner? 6:20 in the dining room, Finn smiled. Thank you. Mrs. Elton put her purse on a bedside table. I'll just use you girls' bathroom if you don't mind. She walked to the only other door in the room and pulled it open. This is a closet. Alexis giggled. We use a shared bathroom, Finn said. Shall I show it to you? Yes, please. Mrs. Elton followed Finn out. Mr. Elton stood there awkwardly, then walked out after them. That may have been the most uncomfortable 2 minutes I've ever witnessed, Ian said. Nick laughed. Yeah, they're good fun. So, Alexis said, now what? Ian said he had to finish picking up his books before someone found them there. Apparently, school is very strict about students picking up after themselves. Nick said he wanted to explore the courtyard a bit more, and Saya said she'd go with him. Alexis decided to help Ian in the library, then she'd meet them outside. Alexis and Ian walked down the corridor to the library. How long have you been here? Alexis asked. Just a couple weeks, Ian said. I'll probably just be here for the semester. Alexis looked at him. You have a plan for how long it will take you to start behaving? My parents just sent me here because it's close to where my dad is working this year. Oh, I see. What does he do? He owns a hotel chain, Ian said, in almost every country, so we travel around a lot. They reached the library. Ian pulled on the handle. Damn it, it's locked. Is that the first curse word we've had so far? He checked his watch. 5:06. They close the libraries and game rooms at 5. Can't you do it tomorrow? Alexis asked. I'll get a demerit if a teacher sees my books out. Do we get to climb through the window? Ian sighed. Is there another way in? No, this is the only door. Ian rubbed his face. They send a letter to your parents when you get demerits. Alexis thought for a minute. Wasn't there a window? Yes, he said slowly. Where does it open out? Tragically, Alexis and I share a brain. I don't see why you can't just bury your dead family members in the backyard, Nick said. Yeah! No, he's right. Why should you have to go through the hassle? Of funeral arrangements? Listen, we cannot open a new scene without something kooky. It's respectful, Saya argued. But can't you bury them respectfully without spending $10,000? The Amish people do it, and no one has a problem with it. Is that true? I think that's discriminating. How did we even get on this subject? Saya asked. I have absolutely no idea. Nick skipped a rock on the pond they were standing next to. What's taking Alexis so long? Saya snorted. Have you seen Ian? Yeah. Oh, is he supposed to be hot? Okay. I like that my description of a boy that's supposed to be attractive is like, he had hair, his eyes were green. I gave up my best shot. I wouldn't be in much of a hurry either, Saya said. What do you mean? Nick asked. Never mind, Saya shook her head. What's that? She pointed to the pond. Nick looked. I don't see anything. Saya shoved him and he stumbled into the water. He stood in water up to his ankles. Saya, what? These were my favorite shoes. He grabbed her arm and yanked her all the way in. She groped out of the pond, soaking wet from head to toe. You bastard! 2 curse words. She shoved him again, and he fell all the way into the pond. He came out laughing and pulled her in again. Are we allowed to swim in here? Saya asked. No, a voice behind them said. They spun around. Marvin stood over them, shaking his head disapprovingly. Uh-oh. No. Why not? No, it's right there. No one will see, Alexis insisted, pointing to the window. Ian sighed. You keep watch. Alexis nodded and ran to the corner of the building. She gave him a thumbs up. He started climbing up the bricks to get into the window. It took no small amount of persuasion to get him this far. They were in a restricted area just to get near the window. The threat of a demerit finally convinced him. Alexis glanced over her shoulder. No one was coming. Okay, so I think the pacing of this is actually pretty good. If the scenes had more setting and we just kind of slowed it down a little bit, I think that the cuts from scene to scene are done well. Ian was to the window. He pushed it open. It's not locked, he exclaimed. She shooed him on. Alexis peeked around the corner again. A man was walking towards her. She gasped. Ian, she hissed. Someone's coming. He was already through the window. Alexis glanced around for somewhere to hide. Ian poked his head out of the window. Okay. Shh. Alexis frantically motioned for him to go back in. He gave her a perplexed look, but ducked back in the window. Why would he be perplexed? She was the lookout. Obviously someone is coming. Good thing Ian is allegedly hot because he doesn't seem very smart. She could hear the man's footsteps getting closer. Alexis whined. If they found Ian... She's just whining like a dog. If they found Ian, he'd probably be suspended. This was her fault. Again, Alexis grunted and ran out of hiding. Hey, the man said. What are you doing back here? Just looking around, Alexis tried. I can't find my friends. So you're looking in the fenced-in area covered with keep out signs? Alexis looked at him. Yes. Okay. He started back to the door he came from, motioning for her to follow him. Alexis sighed and trudged along. She probably could have said she can't read. I think I'd have believed her. Saya and Nick sat on towels in the Dean of Admission's office. Mr. Fitzpatrick was gaping at them. Saya shifted in her seat. How, Mr. Fitzpatrick began, did you possibly manage to get on Marvin's bad side in the first hour of your enrollment? Nick opened his mouth to speak when the door opened. Alexis walked in. Oh, so they're all in trouble at the same time? That's very precious. Alexis walked in, followed by a teacher Nick had met earlier. Is this yours? The teacher asked. Alexis scratched her arm and looked at the ceiling. You too, Fitzpatrick asked with a sigh. Alexis noticed Saya and Nick sitting there soaking wet. She laughed. What happened to you? They went for a swim in the pond, apparently, Mr. Fitzpatrick said. What happened to you? She was trespassing in the maintenance area, the teacher said. Thanks, Greg, Fitzpatrick said. You can leave. Greg. Greg gave a curt nod and shut the door behind him. Alexis sat next to Nick. He ran his hand through his hair, then wiped the water on the leg of her jeans. She hissed at him. Do you three always get in trouble simultaneously, Mr. Fitzpatrick asked. Alexis rubbed her ear. Generally. He stood. Teamwork is admirable, I guess. I see a lesson to be learned. He opened the door. Don't tell Headmaster Lucas anything about this and we'll be fine. That's it? Nick asked. Yep, Mr. Fitzpatrick shrugged. First time infractions, I let them slide. Just don't let it happen a second time, right? Yes, sir, Nick said. They all walked out of the room. The door shut behind him. Saya puffed out her cheeks. I thought this was a crime and punishment. You break rule, we kill you school. Apparently he's merciful on new kids, Alexis said. He didn't even tell Mom, Nick added. I'm starved, Saya said. When's food? Nick frowned. That's my line. Nick said, I am the token big boy. Ian walked in. Alexis, there you are. You, Saya pointed. Bring me to food. Is she still being a brat because she had a concoction? Ian stepped backwards out of the door from whence he came. Queen. He pointed to the left. Down the hall, second door to the right. They start serving in a few minutes. Excellent. Saya galloped out of the room. I did miss the galloping. Come, Nikolai. Sustenance awaits. Do I have to gallop? He asked. Yes. Nick sighed and started skipping behind Saya. Alexis hopped to join them, but Ian grabbed her arm. Unhand me, fiend, she shouted. Shoot me. Ian jumped back. Just kidding, she said. She patted his shoulder. There. Okay. He gave her a bewildered look. She sniffed. So, you were saying? Oh, right, he began. I just wanted to say thanks for what you did earlier. You didn't have to. Psh, she flapped her hand. I do heroic things all the time. It's no big deal. He laughed. No, really, she insisted. A mailman walked past me earlier and I didn't trip him. Alexis! Is it habitual of you to trip mailmen? Always. Ian laughed again. In any case, thank you. Anytime. Alexis looked towards where Nick and Saya had disappeared. Can we eat now? Aye. Ian agreed. Aye. Alexis starts walking. Ian groaned. It's these damned Irishes. They say the catchiest things. It's not the damned Irishes. Alexis reached the door and waited for Ian to open it for her. Incapable, are we? Ian asked. Alexis nodded at Marvin standing across the hall. Marvin drilled Ian with a stare. Oh, Ian said, pulling the door open. Good catch. You better shape up. Alexis walked in the cafeteria. Marvin rules with an iron fist. It's funny. Ian let the door swing closed. Marvin has absolutely no authority, but he's the biggest rat you've ever met, so everyone walks on eggshells around him. Squealers are to be respected, Alexis nodded. Of course Alexis is a narc defender. Piece of shit. The cafeteria was like a school lunchroom meets a high-class buffet. I'm speaking out of my ass. I'd never been in a cafeteria. Wooden trays were stacked on a table with utensils and real napkins already set on them. Do high-class buffets exist? A line of boys and teachers ran from the tray table to the food bars. Alexis and Ian grabbed trays and walked through the buffet. Meats, vegetables, pastas, bread rolls, desserts, and a drink fountain. Ian got a scoop of everything while Alexis filled her plate half and half with macaroni and pudding. Any of y'all ever played Jumpstart first grade? Balanced diet, Ian commented. I'm the spokesperson for healthy living. Alexis glanced around. There they are. She pointed with her elbow to the corner of the room where Saya and Nick were eating. They waved them over. Alexis walked across the entire room without tripping. Walking through a lunchroom, then tripping over a stray chihuahua, throwing her entire tray of food over everyone in the room was a recurring nightmare. Good God. This being her first time in a lunchroom since she was 9, she expected a chihuahua to run up from nowhere. Nothing happened. She made it to Saya and Nick with a sigh of relief. There you are, Saya said, scooting over to make room for them. We were just talking about your fear of chihuahuas tripping you in lunchrooms. Alexis paused. Who told you about that? You did, Saya shoveled mashed potatoes into her mouth. You talk in your sleep, you know. Duly noted. You've got a messed up subconscious, Saya laughed. Speaking of which, who's Enrique? Right, Alexis said quickly. Let's move on, shall we? Wait, no, who is he? I don't know, Nick said. I think I'd like to hear about Enrique. Oh, by the way, Nick, Alexis interrupted. I need you to translate something for me. She dug her notebook out of her jacket and handed it to him. Nick shoved the rest of his pork chop into his mouth and looked at the notebook. Oh, God, French. Here lies Opal. 4 in the soil? 3 in the shade, Alexis finished. Saya looked at her. Yep, Nick handed her the notebook. Where's it from? The fountain outside, right? Ian asked. No, Saya said. It's from the book. And from the fountain outside, Alexis said. What? Saya asked. Seriously? Yes, Alexis cocked her head. I don't know. What? I'm lost, Ian said. This is so convenient. By the time Alexis and Saya were done thoroughly explaining everything about the treasure hunt to Ian, the lunchroom had cleared and they were left alone. Oh, Ian said slowly. I see. So the opal statue is somehow connected to your treasure? It would seem so, Saya said. What do you mean the opal statue? The fairy statue, Ian said. Opal. The fairy is named Opal? Alexis raised her eyebrows. We hadn't put that together yet. Oh, Ian exclaimed. Yeah, it's an old legend. Opal, the fairy on the fountain, lived in a meadow somewhere in Ireland. No one is sure where. It was a beautiful Wait, the fountain was in French? Okay. It was a beautiful meadow, but Opal had a problem. She didn't like to share her meadow with anyone unworthy. If anyone with an impure heart treaded in her meadow, she'd cast a spell which made them inclined to bury themselves alive. Jesus Christ. There is an element of weird little girl to this story that I don't think I could access now. Saya stared wide-eyed. A lovely story, yes. However, anyone who met up to her expectations and were allowed to live were also cast under a spell. According to Opal, true beauty lied within. So only the purest of heart, the most beautiful, were allowed to stay in her meadow. She turned them into statues. They would sit in her garden and never break or crack, as they were enchanted, you see. Now here's the fun part. A garden nymph named Ariana happened upon Opal's meadow. Ariana was displeased with the way Opal was treating the mortals, so Ariana cast a spell that trapped Opal within a stone statue. Opal was forever banished to sit amongst her victims as a stone image of herself. Her only friends, the rabbits and squirrels you see at the statue's feet, they tried their best to free Opal of her chains, but in the attempt were turned to stone with her. Anyone who tries to help Opal will meet her fate. Her punishment for destroying the lives of many is to live among them, watch them interact with each other, but never be able to ever communicate with them. Alexis smiled. That is the best fairy story I've ever heard. Yes, I agreed. Thank you for the nightmares. Nick leaned back in his chair. So now the question is, where do we go with this information? We could show you the rest of the book, Alexis suggested to Ian, and everything else that we found. Maybe something else will make sense to you. What are the chances, Saya mused, that some random boarding school Nick gets sent to is linked to our mystery? Ian looked at her. I believe the technical term is serendipity. Ian, I think that is all we will read for today. If you liked it, give me a like and leave a comment with your predictions. Do you think I'll make it make sense that Nick was randomly sent to that boarding school? Do we think I'll kill off Alexis? Check out the playlist if you want to see the story from the beginning, and I will see you next week. Bye!